All right, so welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Now this week's topic, let me have a look. That was last week. There we got, about people pleasing and self-esteem. Okay, so today, the topic is overcoming people-pleasing. That's a nice one that I'm very familiar with. It's probably one of my main difficulties in my own practice is attitude of people-pleasing, doing things for approval, for attention, doing things to be received by others the way I feel that I should be received. But of course it's not only me doing that, it's a whole lot of people actually who are very prone to people-pleasing. And so it makes sense to discuss that in a bit more detail. Let's see what comes up today. The last time I've been discussing it, I think it was like around episode 70 or something like this. We had an episode about people-pleasing already. And of course we're all growing in the meantime, so maybe a few additions come up this time. So what I observe that people-pleasing is kind of an aspect of fear. It's an aspect of, yes, I would say it comes from a fear, a very basic fear that you as you are somehow are not okay. There's something wrong with you. It's based on that assumption. We all learn that there are things that are wrong with us when we're very young. When we're little children, we learn, here is you being wrong. That's why your parents are yelling at you. And here is you being right. That's your parents appreciating you and showing that appreciation with praise, with candy, with hugs. And so that's not just only the parents, but when you're young also then your school kind of teaches you you're wrong when you have bad grades, you're right when you have the good grades. We are continuously learning when we are younger. We are learning what it is that kind of makes us right. When do we fit in as an individual into the whole mass, into the group? And when are we not fitting in? We learn that pretty early on. And there is meaning to that, and there is value to that. For example, learning how to behave in a society that consists of several billion people on this planet makes sense. Yes, you want to learn manners, for example, how to behave with people. You want to learn how to say thank you and please and you're welcome and so forth. All these things are important. If we do not learn them, if we would not have any guidelines or whatsoever, nobody teaching us anything, there have been several cases of people who were kind of born and raised in the complete wilderness. They were like alone in the jungle, raised by animals and stuff like this. And they were just like animals then, just like monkeys, grunting, not being able to talk properly. Yes, so our societies require a certain learning, and there's a certain skill set that is important to have. A very ordinary level of cause and effect. If I do this, the result is that. Let's say if I'm doing a certain thing, then the result is suffering. I shouldn't be doing that, right? If I do something and the result is happiness, both for myself and others, then that is something to be cultivated further. But like anything in this world, all things are dual, so there's always a limit to that. You can make people happy, you can make yourself happy with simple methods, but there's always a limit to it. It also will make other people unhappy. It will not always work. Sometimes it backfires. There's this little story of a Tibetan monk who is observing a fisherman. He's just fishing. And he catches a fish and he puts it into a bucket. And he has this monk feels a great amount of pity for those fish. He sees those fish and he thinks, oh my God, what a suffering. I should save them. And so he goes down to the bucket in the moment when the fisherman goes to pee behind a bush. The monk goes to the bucket and empties the bucket back into the pond. And what happens is there is a big fish in the pond, and he eats up all the fish that have been emptied into the bucket, now being weaker than before. So the big fish immediately comes and eats them all up, and the monk is shocked. Understanding that, very often, even though our intentions are good, the results might not match up with our intentions. Happens quite a lot, actually. And so we're also confronted with this irregularity in our actions, in our own being, like things do not behave the way we want them to behave. Our environment is not the way it should be. Ourselves, even our inner world, is not the way it should be. There's a lot of that, right? There's a lot of things that are completely out of our control. Like we don't want to feel bad, yet we do feel bad. We don't want to suffer grief, depression, despair, yet we do. We don't want to be scared, yet we are scared. There's all these kind of things going on that are totally out of our control. And so we're faced with this vast inner world of infinite possibilities of how we could feel, how we could be, how we could exist. And this vast external universe, just as complex. And so here I am, that little me that tries to somehow sustain some continuity in its own presence, something that it could kind of rely on, trying to control the world around me, trying to control my own self, constantly losing energy in doing that, losing massive amounts of energy in trying to establish some sort of certainty and control, something that I could somehow rely on. We're all confronted with that, everybody in this world. We're trying to put a perceived order into this mess, into this vastness of the universe we inhabit, trying to make sense of things. And then over the decades, the millennia, we form like societies and governments and politics, and it increasingly becomes more and more complex. Religions, becoming more and more difficult and complex. Sure, more and more people require such an amount of difficulty, and we're all confronted with that on a continuous basis. Every moment we're confronted with the vastness of our own presence here, having no idea why we're here. And then trying to somehow put our little thoughts on top of that, trying to make sense of that, of all that madness. I'm born into a realm like that, surrounded by trees and earth and gravity and skies above, and on a planet Earth, in a galaxy, somewhere in a vast space, floating around, trying to make sense of my own existence. And sure, we have some societies, our governments, our education systems, they tell you who you are, who you're supposed to be. And that all feels very safe. So we kind of like that. We like to have authorities tell us who we are and what the world is, and everything is in order, and we have got it all figured out, and we have it all under control, and we can control ourselves, and we can control everyone else. Don't worry, everything is fine. And then if you reflect deeper, you quickly come to these borders of your knowledge. And then there is uncertainty. And that I very much see at the root of people-pleasing, that fundamental uncertainty of who I am. Who the heck am I? Tell me. Am I a meditation teacher? Should I play that role? Am I playing it good enough? Is it okay? It's uncertainty, you see? So much uncertainty. Am I a good meditation student? Am I? Let me ask my teacher. The teacher says, yeah, you're quite okay. It gives me a sense of certainty for a little while, and then quickly it reveals again underneath that there's still uncertainty, because I still really don't know what I am, who I am. I only know what I've learned so far. That's a whole lot of content that has been put into my mind. But is that really what I am? And so we have all of us, we have this fundamental sense of not really knowing who we are. If you go deeply into the rabbit hole, you quickly find out you don't know nothing. You only know the things that you've been told. And this is just like stuff that is mostly like a second-hand thing. It's not a direct experience. Some few people made direct experiences of what we then accept later. It's written in our physics book. There is such a thing as gravity and numbers and statistics, and it's all okay. Someone's figured it out. All you need to do is repeat. And a few years later, it's uncovered. It was all wrong. We need to rewrite the books. It wasn't actually like that. Now we know more. So there's this continuous learning, even in science, going on. Being confronted with that vastness of our being, of our presence, and constantly trying to make sense of it, of course, that is at the root of most of the misery that is experienced in this realm, in this world. Not knowing who we are, what we're here for. Because as long as you don't know, you can be told anything, and you kind of have to believe it. That's why we like having people tell us who we are. And if you have learned that you receive love and attention and care, the good stuff, when you perform well, then you will do that for the rest of your life. You will try to perform well. Because you have learned that, that is associated with love and attention. If I do well, if I'm successful, I have money, I'm intelligent, I am a somebody that is respected by others, that, in other words, I'm someone that is accepted and loved. Okay, so there I go, performing well every day, functioning just really good, doing what I'm expected to do. And sometimes we also don't like at all what we're doing. We're doing it just simply because we get attention and respect when we're doing it. We're not doing it because we like doing it. Also very often the case, isn't it? We do things like your friend invites you, you want to spend your evening at home. You don't want to go out, you want to watch Netflix, you want to relax, you don't want to go out. It's raining outside. And someone calls you up and says, hey, you're coming out today? And you hear yourself saying, yeah, sure. Why? Because there's a threat. There's a threat, a very real threat in your perception that you will not be loved if you say no. So you have learned that you have to say yes to everyone. One of the biggest problems of a people pleaser, they can't say no, even if they mean it. I don't want to do it. I really hate that food, but I kind of still eat it to not offend anyone, to keep the balance, to keep the harmony alive. Maybe you have learned that you need to sustain the harmony in your relationships. You need to always make sure that everyone is pleased and happy. And so some people, they take other people's emotion on as their own responsibility. I need to make sure that your emotional state is always happy and nice. In my own case, my parents, when I was very young, was about 2-3 years old, they were arguing. They had fights, like massive fights. I still remember them. They were traumatic experiences for me. And I had great fear when I was younger. And that fear went to such a degree where I went in between my parents when they were arguing and fighting and shouting, peace, 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 peace. 2 years old, 3 years old. like a little boy. It was scaring the hell out of me. All the shouting, all that. So what am I now? What has that made me internally? I'm super scared of anything that even smells like someone might get angry at me, or someone might disagree, even just the slightest disagreement, even not about myself, but just two people out there that I don't even know. I hear them starting to get into an argument. I take it on board immediately, and I see it as my responsibility to get out there and save them. You see? It makes me super uncomfortable whenever I hear people argue. Before, we stayed in a little house quite nearby around the corner. It was wall on wall, just very much like those houses over there. Wall on wall with a neighbor who was super abusive with his wife. He would punch his wife like regularly every night. There was probably something going on with drugs and stuff. So it was, for me, it was absolute hell hearing that ruckus next door every day. Absolutely hellish experience. For me, it was like I was in there. I couldn't stand it. It was touching me. It was shaking me up. So we had to move, to break the contract and just get out. And all my meditative skills and all that, it didn't help. I was feeling like shit in this house. And so there's this basic discomfort with who we are that is at the root of people pleasing, isn't it? It's basic discomfort with the reality of our uncontrollable experience of being me. It's scary. Anything can happen in there. There's so much guilt, so much shame, so much stuff that I try to hide from everyone else around me. I go outside, I have my public me that is always nice, always pleasing, always saying yes, just to make sure that everything stays in there that's supposed to stay in there, that it doesn't get out. It creates this discrepancy. There is the spiritual public me, and there is the inner messy me, which is total opposite of the spiritual public me. That's very painful to sustain. It's not easy. Hard work. Because I have to be outside, I have to be fake. I have to be not me. But inside, I'm neither me. There's just a big mess. A lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions, a lot of stuff going on. So what is meditation practice? At first I thought, well, meditation practice means to clean up the mess inside. And kind of I saw that as my duty. I'm a broken, messy, strange me that has all these flaws and all these defects. And now it is my job to fix them. But the problem is, the one who wants to fix the broken self is itself broken. So it's just like a dog biting its own tail. It ends up nowhere. It ends up in circles. And if you do that long enough, being on a spiritual path, eventually you start catching yourself like, hey, this doesn't work. This approach doesn't work. The approach that I am broken and I must be fixed and I must fix myself. First of all, where have I learned that I'm broken? Who taught me this? That's obviously a learning, isn't it? At some point in my life, I have learned that I'm broken, that I'm not good, that I'm not okay the way I am. And chances are that all of you are sitting here to have exactly the same problem. Somehow, you're not all right. You're not okay, not quite. We might superficially state, yes, I'm fine, I'm good. We might post it online. Everything is perfect. I am good enough. But deep down inside, we don't really believe that. There's just too much wrong with us, right? Too much in the past that we've messed up. Too much things that we carry around. And they're constantly in our face telling you, like, no, you don't really like yourself. Look. And so we distract ourselves endlessly, trying to get out of this mess, not really being successful with it also. So meditation is primarily really, it's shadow work. You're working with all the stuff that you do not want to deal with. And what's the work? See it. That's pretty much it. See it. See it very, very clearly. And so in order to see something really clearly, you have to look. And it's the same thing with people pleasing. Why do I go out trying to get attention from other people? Because I'm not giving that to myself. I'm not paying attention to myself. So I think I need to get it from other people somehow. I need to get out there and getting appreciation from other people. Why? Because I do not appreciate myself. It's obvious. It's logical even. It makes perfect sense. I go out, try to get things from other people that I feel I lack. Right? I don't eat food if I'm not hungry. Why would I? There has to be some sort of hunger, whether it's an emotional hunger or physical hunger. I have to get out there and eat. I'm not eating when I'm not hungry. So I'm not asking for attention if I'm not hungry for it. If I'm not bothering other people. It happens very often in relationships, right? You have this kind of phenomenon that you constantly receive text message from your significant other going, I love you, where are you? I love you, where are you? This kind of phenomenon. What are you doing right now? What are you thinking right now? This is kind of an attempt of trying to make sure that everything is still okay. I'm still okay. Am I still worthy of love? So I say to Pan, I love you, and I need her answer. Just to make sure that I'm still okay, actually. That has nothing to do with love. That's just a little business transaction, like I give you something, and then you give me back the confirmation that everything's still okay. It is fear. The fear that I might not be loved anymore. Let me just make sure. Because deep down inside there is a belief that I'm not really worthy of love. Maybe I feel I'm too ugly. How can a beautiful person like Pan be with an ugly person like I am? That's, by the way, not something that I make up. That is my feeling about myself. I feel I'm ugly. Probably a lot of people feel they're ugly. It's no wonder with all the magazines, high-gloss bullshit all around us that tell us how you should look like, what you should consume, that tells the women that they should be sexy all the time, tells the men that they should be handsome and strong all the time. It creates so much mess up in our mind. Of course we all have that. So here I am feeling that I'm ugly, that I'm not a good person, that I'm fundamentally flawed. Of course I need to make sure that my wife still loves me, because the risk that she does it and goes for the next guy who is much more handsome, much more intelligent, is just too great. So I need to ask her all the time, where are you? What are you doing right now? What are you thinking about? Some people even go that far that they forbid their wives to even look at other men. Like literally telling them, I don't want you to look at other men. That exists. What is that? It's fear, isn't it? It's fear. It's just an extreme expression of what I just mentioned. And so that unworthy me, that ugly me, that not good enough me, constantly needs affirmation that I'm still a member of the herd, the group. I still fit in. Because if I'm expelled, if I'm outside, I die. It's a real biological threat. If you are not the member of a group anymore, if you are outside there, that's it. You die. If no one would care for you anymore, imagine. You alone out there in the wilderness, nobody giving you food, you're just by yourself on your own. That would be it. You would go physically, you would break and mentally go insane. Human connection is very important, and so we try, of course, to make sure that this one works out, that this one functions, so it is okay. And for people-pleasing, there is also a good side to people-pleasing, by the way. I'm not just saying that it's all messed up and based on fear and bad and dark. No, it's a good side too. It's important to please people. But how can we really please people? By pleasing ourselves. By making sure that we are happy inside. And how does that work? Very counterintuitive. It doesn't work by fixing what you perceive as broken. It works by accepting what is as it is. The whole root of the problem lies in non-acceptance. Acceptance is kindness. So when your shame comes up, your guilt comes up, your worries, your pain, your fear, your emotions, whatever it is, can you give that one space? That's the difficulty. And that's what will gradually eliminate people-pleasing and give way to honesty instead. You become more and more aligned. Your thoughts, your inner world, and your outer action become more and more aligned. Does it mean you suddenly become unmessy? No, you just simply become more aligned, more honest. That's what happens. That's a spiritual evolution. From dishonesty, from not wanting to accept ourselves fully, to being fully okay with every single aspect within our being. The cool thing that when you can do that, when you can actually fully give yourself space, when you can host yourself completely, you start to allow other people to be. You can suddenly be kind to other people. You can understand, oh yeah, they're just like me. I can connect. They are allowed to be angry. They are allowed to be messy. They are allowed to make all their experiences. Because I'm allowed to make them too. And that gives you an amazing platform to connect with beings, because it's that honesty. You're not having to pretend anymore. That makes you relaxed. Doesn't it? Imagine everybody in the world would know your darkest secrets. You could be completely relaxed. You have nothing to hide. Because hiding costs you a lot of energy, doesn't it? You'd be free to be fully aligned because there is no threat. You'd be loved with all your story. Everything you did, it made you who you are right now. And so it's fine. It's like part of a journey. It's okay. Suddenly you wouldn't have to expend a lot of energy anymore to make sure that you will be liked by others. Because imagine you were just in a room where you're liked no matter what. You are seen in your full potential, no matter what you're doing. You're appreciated. So you wouldn't have to go out there and be criminal and hurt other people and hurt yourself over and over and over again because we're unaligned. But when we're fully aligned, then all that is not necessary anymore. You can just be at peace with yourself. So you do not have to express the opposite of peace. This expression just falls away. It's not that you have to make an effort not to be bad. It's just you're aligned. So your contribution is wholesome, uplifting, powerful. So the honesty is at the very base of any spiritual path. You can't even begin to walk a spiritual path if you're dishonest with yourself. Impossible. That applies for a teacher. It applies for the students. In the same way. No honesty, no progress. Then we are, kind of, stroking our self-images, keeping them alive. Keeping alive what actually hurts us. So people-pleasing is a wonderful opportunity, and many people are people-pleasers. They do the negative kind of people-pleasing. They contort themselves in ways that are very painful and hurtful to please others because they get a little bit of attention. That is the negative facet of people-pleasing. The positive aspect of it would be that you start pleasing yourself, and you do that by accepting yourself. You give yourself space and attention and love and care, aka you meditate. And it's slowly out of that you build power, confidence. You're all right, alignment. You become daring, not just pretending. You're all fully okay with saying no, as well as you're fully okay with saying yes, because everything is aligned. No means no. Being kind doesn't mean that you will say yes, you become like a doormat. Some of the kindest people that I've met, they are very strict. They know very well how to say no. My master is a Buddhist monk, very high order, very realized being. He slammed doors in my face, which all helped me to learn many things about myself which I could not have learned otherwise if he was stroking my ego. Like, yeah, Tobi, you're the best. But sometimes we need these kind of things to show us, oh, here's what I'm doing to myself. Here's my expectations, my wish that someone else takes care of my life, that I don't have to. So it's a wonderful opportunity. How do you recognize people-pleasing? Anytime when you have an expectation concerning some other person, when you're doing something and your expectations are not met, the feeling of pain, of hurt that you're experiencing, when there is even just the suspicion that another person might not like you anymore, that's where your practice is. Accept that fully. There it is. There is the pain. Now, just be with it. For example, sometimes I write a text message to someone and they don't answer. Now, as a people pleaser, for me, that's a threat. I might have said the wrong thing. Maybe they don't like me anymore. Okay? So there is a tendency to kind of quickly add on a smiley or something like that, kind of show like, I didn't mean it that way, or I'm a funny person, don't worry, I'm okay, I don't in that case. Instead, I put the phone down and I take 5 deep breaths and then I look at that feeling directly. Just experiencing, there it is. There is that pain. There is that fear that I might not be good enough. And then I'm friendly to that fear and I allow it to be, and I discover myself as that which is kind, not that which is afraid. That's a shift in power. It's a shift in perspective. I can be kind to my fear. So what am I? Am I fearful or am I kind? And that rediscovery of yourself as kindness or awareness, that gives you the confidence, that gives you the ability to heal and to align yourself. So just a short summary, 2 facets of people-pleasing. The one that's skillful, which starts with yourself, with awareness, with kindness, serving yourself well. And the negative one, the unskillful one, which is trying to bend the world around you so that everyone likes you. trying to bend yourself in ways that you become more likable based on the flawed idea that you are somehow not good enough, that you are broken when you're not. Okay? So that's all that comes to mind for today.